A vessel from Amsterdam Port Authority patrols the city's western docklands, the location of a huge coal-fired power station. But the facility has been shut since the end of last year. The decision to close it 5 years ahead of schedule was forced on the Dutch government by a landmark case brought by the sustainability organisation Urgenda. This forced the Netherlands to speed up climate protection measures to comply with the court ruling, which states that the country must be emitting 25% less CO2 by the end of 2020 than it was in 1990. Promises have to be kept. That also goes for the promises related to climate protection. The highest court of the Netherlands has issued a verdict obliging the Dutch government to reduce the country's CO2 emissions immediately. Can this be done before the end of the year? We travel across the Netherlands to find out. Come with us. Compared with other EU countries, the Dutch energy is considered one of the worst. Just 7% of the country's total energy consumption is covered by renewables, far off the EU's target for this year of 20%. Marja Minasma is the director of Urgenda, who in 2013 took legal action against the government and eventually won, but the real struggle is still ahead.
The clock is ticking, time is running, so what was done so far?
Little was done, but more than a year ago. So the government gave additional subsidies, 2 billion euros for solar panels and big wind farm projects. They gave additional subsidies for installation measures and heat pumps and things like that. They have promised that there would be new law that would bring all coal-fired power plants back to 25% of their capacity, and that is planned for October.
There is a deadline, end of this year. Will they make it or not?
We have told them if you are 3 months later, it's fine, because it's not that we want to have a new crash because they're a little bit later. But if you don't do enough, or if you're not planning for the next year, then we surely go back to court.
What is your personal motivation to go for this?
The major switch came when I got children, and I really realized that they might still live in 2100. And if you know what's going to happen if climate change goes on in the way it still goes, this is not an Earth in which you can live very well anymore. And there will be billions of people that can't stay where they live right now, and you will have a total mess. And I know that all the solutions are on the table, which makes me very angry. We're just simply not wanting to act, and everything is there.
Minasma is the author of a high-profile report that she wrote in collaboration with scientific experts. They reached the conclusion that the Netherlands could be using 100% renewable energy resources by 2030 if the political will existed to act now.
To be honest, I don't get it. We have heavy rain just 5 minutes ago. It's cloudy, it's dark, the Netherlands. And how you can stress that solar is a solution?
I can get more than enough from those 2 sets of solar panels for my whole house and part of my electric vehicle. We made a scenario for the whole of the Netherlands, and if we put solar panels on every roof and we put wind turbines at sea and partly at land, we have enough renewable energy for the whole of the Netherlands to do everything we need. It's much more worthwhile to put money on your roof than on your bank account at the moment.
Urgenda is distributing 1 million saplings, both to farmers and to members of the general public, to help reduce atmospheric CO2 levels. It's part of the organisation's package of measures agreed with the Dutch government. After the court verdict was issued, lawmakers agreed to adopt a comprehensive list of measures devised by Minasma and her fellow campaigners, such as increasing e-mobility, electric transport technology. From 2030, the sale of new fossil-fuelled power cars will be banned. But what will be done in the shorter term to comply with the landmark Urgenda court verdict?
We're driving 100 here because the government has changed from 130 to 100 because of our court case. It's one of the 30 measures out of our plan that the government did take. And that saves them roughly 0.5 megaton per year emissions of CO2, and they still have to do 80 megaton this year.
The government has now pledged to reduce CO2 emissions to half of 1990 levels by 2030. Telestroom Ferry is a hybrid power vessel operated between Texel Island and Den Helder. For emergencies, there's still a diesel engine on board. The ship's captain can choose between 4 propulsion options: natural gas, diesel, electric batteries and solar power. The vessel's design is part of a European Union programme to make ferries more eco-friendly. Minnesma, who's previously worked for the Dutch government implementing sustainable energy in Central Europe, is today heading for the island of Texel.
Texel is one of the icon projects of Urgenda. We have here tested and tried on Texel as our main project, and we have started here many initiatives that are scaled up in the rest of the Netherlands.
She has an appointment on Texel with Nicole Schirmer, one of the masterminds of the island's sustainable energy revolution. Nicole is currently installing solar panels on the roof of a local farm. Several years ago, Urgenda successfully lobbied to upgrade the country's charging station network. Today, Minnesma has no problem finding a charging point for her electric car.
Nicole,
look what I brought for you from the Beemster-polder, a real cherry tree.
Oh, how nice.
I have left it in water overnight, so if you plant it quickly, it'll be fine. They're quite strong.
Okay, great. I'll do that.
And these are your men on the roof there, aren't they? I see you're almost ready. One panel left. It's especially for us.
Speciaal voor ons.
To inject a ray of hope into the currently gloomy Dutch energy mix, the government is following the Urgenda recommendation to create more solar power capacity. To encourage take-up, the Netherlands offers community investment schemes for renewables.
What kind of project is this?
This is a project that's called Postcode Rose, and then that 26 people having here sharing 299 panels. And they have the tax advantage from the government.
So because and those people don't have a roof of their own, and they jointly have a project, and if they live in the same postcode area, they get a tax deduction.
The Netherlands experiences high winds all year round. In the medium term, the country will build up further wind power capacity offshore. But to reach the Urgenda verdict's obligations in the timeframe available, a rapid upgrading of the solar capacity would appear to be the quickest short-term solution.
What the people on Texel, they think about solar and wind energy.
Het eiland niet in de zin van...
When it comes to those enormous wind turbines, well, people aren't very happy about having them here on the island.
Wordt men hier op het eiland niet zo blij van.
It is a beautiful island, and many people think that the turbines will spoil that.
Mensen vinden dat het beeld schaadt. Maar zonnepanelen...
But solar panels, those can be mounted on many roofs without the views of the island being damaged.
Daken gelegd worden zonder dat een storend beeld geeft.
The latest innovation proposed for the island are solar panels placed on bicycle routes. With the go-ahead for the project given by the local authority, Nicole Schirmer is currently testing a new generation of shatter-proof solar panels. Later on, the entire island cycle network could follow, and in a second step, other regions of the Netherlands. The most unusual solar solution on Texel can be found at the Krim Resort, a golf course with a nearby reservoir, which is now covered by floating solar-powered cells. Innovation like this is necessary. The Netherlands is among the most densely populated EU states. Conventional solar farms take up a lot of land. That's why Nicole is looking for alternative solutions. Based on positive results from the Texel project, he's now joined a research team looking into whether floating panels would work on the North Sea.
Well, what I very much like about you and Texel is that here you test and try things that we then can use in the rest of the Netherlands. So, Nicole, here you have solar panels over water. Why is that better than on land?
Yeah, the water is used in the summer, so you have less evaporation also.
Okay, and to have solar panels on water makes the solar panels work better.
Water will cool the panels, and while they are cooled, they are having a more power on the year base.
Nicole's had an unusual path into cutting-edge solar technology. He has expertise in plant nurseries and has previously used his skill set to help out in climate crisis zones in the Middle East. It was actually these experiences in hotter, sunnier climates that set him on his current course.
Somehow, it really is amazing, my experience. Here I am, planting a tree. Years ago, I went to Iraq to set up a plant nursery. It was there that I saw how much energy was produced by solar light and how much electricity was generated. That was an eye-opener. It was an idea I took back to the Netherlands. And so I've come full circle now.
The Dutch enthusiasm for cycling has helped to foster a postcard-friendly image of a nature-loving country. That's an illusion. Sitting on one of the EU's biggest natural gas fields, the country heavily depends on fossil energy. Some of the political right regret the move away from fossil fuels. The political analyst Siep Weiner agrees and blames green pressure groups such as Agenda.
In this country, the parliament should decide. And in climate policy in this country, sorry to say, but the parliament has not very much to say. In a few months, we have the preparations for elections. And already now you can see that the main parties are leaving the main elements of the climate policy because it's not effective and it's very expensive. People are more interested in the economy than in the climate change.
But opinion polls actually show that 3 out of 4 Dutch people consider climate change to be a very serious problem. In The Hague, we met Sander Gastra, Director General in the Ministry of Economics. He's the government's climate czar, charged with speeding up the country's climate protection policies.
Well, you have a deadline until end of this year to bring down CO2 emissions. September, October, November, December. What will be done in reality?
The most important measure is limiting the capacity of the coal-fired power plants in the Netherlands. That will be the biggest measure being taken to reach the goal by the end of this year, which would mean that they have to reduce their production by 2/3. We have taken measures to even speed up the sustainability of housing and offices in the Netherlands. And to give you a number, we added 150 million of subsidies available for households and businesses to make their offices and their homes more sustainable.
What is the Dutch government doing to boost wind energy?
We already planned for 11 gigawatts offshore for the period up to 2030, and we are looking now into the possibility of even raising that bar.
Industrial-scale agriculture is also a major obstacle for Dutch climate protection policies. Is it possible to combine this large-scale farming with environmentally friendly methods? Yes, says Maurits Groen, founder of the Kipster chicken farms. He's also a solar energy and sustainability entrepreneur who joined Agenda's legal action against the government.
We do not produce food for the chicken, so we do not use any agricultural land, since we only use so-called waste for human consumption. That's one thing, very important. The second thing is that we produce all the power that we need to run the whole factory from the roof. We have about 1,100 panels. We even produce more than we consume. And the third is the packaging. Since it is produced from starch waste from the potato industry, almost carbon neutral.
Here's some greenhouse gas data picking. On average, each EU citizen emits the equivalent of 8.6 tonnes of CO2 emissions per year, while the Netherlands' figurehead of population is a breathtaking 11.6 tonnes. That's even higher than coal-dependent Poland at some 11 tonnes per person.
What is your recommendation you could hand out to huge industrial food producers, be it in the Netherlands, be it abroad?
Well, look around. It's possible to do it in a way which is not harming the welfare of the animals, which is not harming nature. We are building a number of more farms in the United States, Belgium, France, Germany, England, in the years to come. So we want to become the default way of production. I think it's about the existence of mankind in the end. As simple as that.
Bert Poppart and his son Gisbert are happy pig farmers. That might seem an odd thing to say, but most Dutch pig farmers are angry, with the government for forcing them to bring down CO2 and nitrogen emissions, with the EU, which many people claim is making the common agricultural policy greener at the expense of intensive animal farmers. But the Pappots agree with attempts to downscale the Dutch agro industry.
Ja, en we gaan meer en meer houden om die kosten
Farmers
laag
keep
te
too
houden.
many pigs to try to keep production costs down.
Not
Not everybody can get out of this vicious circle. Previously we had 450 breeding sows. Today we have just 25. In the past we have produced too many pigs without getting a good price for them.
This small-scale farming we have now is good for the pigs. I think small-scale farming is the model for the future because old-fashioned large-scale pig farms don't fit the current era anymore.
Being a heavy industrialised country, one of the main upcoming challenges for the Netherlands is a complete overhaul of the existing power supply infrastructure. While some industries prepare for conversion to a hydrogen-based energy supply, this plant has opted for biogas created from the recycling of domestic waste. Waste recycler Omrin has just won an award as the country's most sustainable company. Today, the amount of material European industry uses that's been recycled is only 12%. Omrin is already playing its part.
Well, we earned the prize of most sustainable company in the country because here in practice we are able to sort out the organic waste out of the waste and we make green gas out of it. And next to that we are also able to sort out the plastics out of the waste, in which we are able to make new raw materials and new products out of that. And with sorting out the organic waste and the plastic waste, we are also able to reduce the CO2.
Each year, Omrin generates 9 million cubic metres of biogas from the organic waste. The gas is then used to fuel garbage trucks and supply households. Omrin is part of a network of eco-park companies sharing the same goal, to facilitate the change to sustainable production methods.
Well, it's possible to make the change very quick by working together, by improve the innovations, also to put together different kinds of organizations, governmental, industry and also education. So at this eco park we are able to put together all those parties. We are testing a lot of materials, so in that way we are able to really reduce waste and also to improve the reuse of waste.
The energy transition is already becoming a reality for many in the Netherlands. To increase take-up among the Dutch public, the government is offering financial incentives. Ruud Swearing and his partner Jaake Plevier are remodelling their home to make it energy neutral. Solar panels, a heat pump and extra insulation have made it possible. A self-confessed control freak, Ruud double-checks household consumption figures sent by the local energy provider. He says his house is actually a net generator of power.
So at the end of the year, they paid us back this amount of €400 for 9 months of power. So actually, we provided them more electricity than we got from them. So we're not energy neutral, but we're a power plant.
The EU want to become energy neutral too by 2050. Renovating buildings to help people cut their energy bills is part of its Green Deal.
Give us some facts and figures. So, what is the money invested, the subventions you got, and when you will have your money back?
I think we had to invest in between 30 and 40,000, and we got more or less 10,000 subsidized. But because we don't have electricity bills now anymore, we figured out that in about 14 or 15 years, this money is earned back.
Forward-looking, what should be done next?
The government has to pay more money and stimulate people by giving them more money to help them to change their house.
It's very comfortable in winter time and not producing any CO2. So it's comfort and better for the world.
The Agenda climate case triggered other legal actions around the globe. So will the climate be saved by legal action decisions? It's unclear as yet. While the Dutch judges obliged their government to speed up climate protection, German judges rejected a similar case. Many climate cases elsewhere are still pending. The legal battle goes on.